Chief Mercredi, thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Listen, you're in Ottawa today to raise your concerns about this MOU signed between Ottawa and the Alberta government. An MOU that you say, as it stands, breaches treaty rights, Canadian obligations, and even the Crown. In what way does this agreement do that?
Well, the way it does that is that, communication and consultation is key. And when we're talking about projects in our territory, we have to be a part of those discussions at the very onset. What happens when we're not a part of the discussion is the nations are, pretty surprised about the announcements, and when the community members are asking questions, it's a real problem. So there needs to be a consultation at the upfront before there's any type of announcements made, so our nations could be ready when media is reaching out, and all these their members and proponents as well, to discuss these issues.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've heard from both Ottawa and Alberta. They say Indigenous consultation will happen, and more than that, the Prime Minister is on record as saying that Indigenous support must be given for any major project to proceed, that there has to be an advantage for advancement rather for Indigenous communities. Does that give you any comfort at all?
It does give us some comfort, we have to look at it in a good way, but unfortunately we've been down these roads many times where consultation is not directly done properly at the onset of the projects. And a lot of times some of the issues that we have as nations could be rectified early and discussed early, so we don't have these problems where we have to come to Ottawa and discuss the MOU on between Canada and Alberta. So we're really trying to change the way they fundamentally do things when engaging with First Nations, and making sure that the nations are engaged at the onset of the discussion.
Mm-hmm. So a couple of things stand out there: fundamentally change the way these deals are done, and also to talk about consultation ahead of time before anything is announced. But you also say that Canada has turned a blind eye to how Alberta and the oil industry has operated in your territory. What have they turned a blind eye to specifically?
Well, in Alberta, we have some massive problems there regarding water and the regulation of water, and more on that is, industry is basically unregulated when they're using large amounts of our water. Another issue is the tailing ponds. There's a lot of cumulative impacts that we're facing up in Treaty 8 that have not been rectified. The orphan wells. There's just a ton of issues up there that need to be rectified before we can move ahead in a good way. When we have all these problems and we hear about major projects and pipelines and increasing capacity for these pipelines, that leaves detrimental impacts to our nations, and we're trying to reduce that or bring it to zero before we can move ahead with these projects.
Mm-hmm. Now, they have already obviously announced the MOU. So what do you want them to do at this point? Because I take what you're hearing. Ideally, the consultation would have happened before the agreement was announced. But here we are. It has already been announced. So how do you want this to move forward?
Well, first and foremost, the Prime Minister has to come to Treaty 8 and meet with the nations directly and consult with them directly. Same with the province, Daniel Smith and the UCP. They have to engage with the nations on the onset of before the announcement is made. So our nations are not sitting there, basically surprised and concerned about the announcements being made when it's our resources that are being extracted.
So I take it then what you're now concerned about is less the MOU and more if a pipeline goes forward to talk to you before that happens?
Absolutely. There has to be engagement, and we're looking to be engaged and properly consulted and accommodated. There's a lot of issues up in Alberta when it comes to the resource extraction. For one, there is no resource revenue sharing, and we have to make sure that that's what when we talk about things being fundamentally different, that's one of the areas we're looking at, is to have resource revenue sharing in our territories, so we could benefit just as the rest of Canada.
Mm-hmm. Now, we have heard the promises that would happen, that there would be resource sharing, that there would be a benefit for Indigenous communities, and again, Indigenous consultation. So I guess I'm just trying to get a measure of how you're feeling right now. Are you concerned that those things will not happen, or are you just here to remind the federal government to stand by their promise to do so?
Well, we're always concerned, and we're always here to reaffirm our rights. It's sad that this day and age that we have to reaffirm our rights to courts and legal action. And what we want is a collaborative effort to make sure that we're looked after as well as Canada. Right now, Canada is looking at, a lot of these major projects that are in Indigenous lands. Well, we have problems too, massive problems that the rest of Canada doesn't have. So we're looking to be consulted properly, to be accommodated, and to be respected. That's what the nations are looking for, and for Canada to move forward with these projects, they have to respect the nations.
You are here in Ottawa to raise these issues. I'm wondering what type of meetings you've been able to have, and the type of response you've been able to get.
Well, for the most part, the ministers are very receptive to meeting with the Treaty 8 chiefs, and they've been doing their best to make it happen. Sometimes our timelines are in conflict and we can't accommodate each other, but for the most part, they've been receptive to meeting with Treaty 8, and we're looking forward to meeting them in the new year.
Okay, and is there a promise to do that?
Absolutely, there's been a promise to do that, and we've been pressuring Prime Minister Carney to come to Treaty 8 and meet with us as well.
Okay. Chief Mercredi, thank you for this. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.